I call tonight's meeting to order. It's October 6, 2014. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our introductions. I'm Ann Hunt, Mayor. To my left is Mark Vanderlinde, Arlene Donahue, Bob Christians, and Tyler Abens on our council, and then Paul Hornby, who is our city engineer. To my right is our interim city administrator, Mike Baroni, our finance director, Brian Gruen, sorry, community development director, David Abel, city attorney, Ron Beatty, and our director of public safety, Paul Falls. We don't actually have anybody signed in to, for persons to be heard. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I have one addition under consent agenda. It would be letter O, and it would be scheduling a meeting for to discuss the water treatment plant on the October 13th at 5:30 p.m. Okay, and then the other change would be to start off with Pat Devine from Waconia Schools. Any other changes to the agenda?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 5-0. Welcome, Pat Devine from Waconia.
Mayor, council members, thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be back. Last time I came here, I did a little introduction to who I was and how I got to Waconia and so on. This time, here to give a little information on the referendum we have coming up at the Waconia schools. And wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the philosophy behind the referendum and kind of my philosophy of kind of being a superintendent. As I told you last time, I came from a school district that was in for 26 years. And the school district to draw me away had to be one that I really wanted to be a part of. And the ISD 110 is that district. And right off the start, we kind of talk about the community and how many communities we serve. A lot of times we call it Waconia High School and Waconia Public Schools, but it is ISD 110. I started playing around with the 110 and spelled out one, saying we are all one. We're one community. We're serving 5 different community areas, but we're all one community school. And it's important that everybody understands that and that we treat our students that way, and we have our parents and their community members all feel like they're part of 110. So we kind of started with that analogy as we've been going around with the referendum. I have some informational fact sheets that I'm going to pass around that you can keep. But as we talk about a referendum, I think it all starts with it being a great school district, and the school district has been proven to do really well in many areas. It doesn't matter if it's the academic test scores, it doesn't matter if it's the fine arts program or if it's athletics. We go right down with student participation, community involvement, community youth involvement. We were awarded the Green Ribbon School, which is only one of 9 in the nation. We're award-winning school gardens, and we've been 3 years running Excellence Financial Reporting Award. So it continues to be a great school district. And we know that there's some things that are causing this to be a little scary for our school district, and that's our next part, and that is that we are overcrowding. This is what our classrooms feel like every fall now. People want to come to ISD 110, and there's a reason. It's a great school. My wife and I want to come here. We did, you know. So this happens, as the caption says, class, because of our school's enormous growth, we'll be welcoming some new students today. Our growth continues to happen. It is, from the last 10 years, the growth has been 1,256 students. We're averaging about 120 to 130 students every year, and it continues to happen every year. We see that growth for at least the next 10 years. The problem is our capacity is right now, we're over capacity for what we can fit into our buildings. Our construction engineers do the square footage, and they say that for our K through 4 buildings, we're up 52 students from last year. Our capacity, we're over capacity by 146 students. Our Clearwater building, we're up 51 from last year, and we're over by 120 students in that building. Our 9th through 12th grade is up 11, and it's over capacity by 30 this year. The 9th grade orientation now has this common theme. They tell the 9th graders during orientation, if you drop something in the hallway during passing time, do not pick it up, because it's that crowded. It just, they'll run you over during passing time. Not that it's that dangerous, but it is packed. What's the proposal? Well, how are we going to fix this? It's a $75 million tax-neutral bond that addresses all age grade levels. It's tax-neutral by keep the property taxes to remain your yearly taxes neutral. That's done by pushing out our bond over 24 years instead of a 20-year bond, and that keeps the homeowners so they'll see no increase to their annual voter-approved school levy for facilities. This was in a lot of work before I came on board, and one of the things that the school board really wanted to do was make sure they were respectful to our voters and make sure that their budgets could stay the same and we wouldn't increase their taxes. So it's really important. That's one of the first goals of this. They also wanted to make sure we addressed all the overcrowding in every building area, every grade level, and so that it can benefit the entire community, in which we feel this proposal does. What is it? We're moving things around. It's a good thing. The high school and the middle school will be switching buildings, and the rationale behind that is the high school, it has had one remodel to it, in addition to it, but now there's wetlands in every direction, so we won't be able to push out any further. And their support system cannot handle a second, the foundation can't handle a second layer. So had to look for a different way of doing this. Well, Clearwater has those towers in the back, and they can be pushed out. And we can do a two-story towers for each one of those towers in the back, and you can turn that into a high school campus. So the Clearwater building, the middle school building, will be turned into a high school campus. The high school will be turned into a middle school, but we'll only move 3 of the grades there. We'll move 6, 7, and 8. So we'll have 3 grades into a 4-grade building, which allows for growth. The 5th grade will be moved to the elementaries, and we'll have an additional elementary site, so there'll be 3 elementaries, and that will allow for the growth of the elementary. The early childhood programs will be put into a new designed early enrichment center, which will be in the current high school, and I'll show you that in the drawing coming up. And if you've ever dropped off a student in the Clearwater area, the access road is not that fun to get in and out on. So we have a new access that will help with that congestion off of Highway 5, and you'll see that in the diagrams. What is new? An additional elementary school. I'll show you the location here in a little bit. Several new fields, courts, and lodge auditorium. They did a foot traffic study on our youth programs about 6 months ago, and they found out that our youth programs are short about 8 to 10 soccer / lacrosse / football fields, because our youth programs need that much more green space. And for those of you that have had kids in those programs, you know what that means. You're all over the place. Any little patch of grass you can find, you're out there having the youth programs on it. Secure entries for all schools. So every building will have a secured entryway. You'll have to go through the office in order to get into the school building once the school day starts. So that'll be new to every building. The Bayview and Southview HVAC systems, ventilation systems are really outdated, and they're going to upgrade them to energy efficient and make that a better system. This would be a drawing of what maybe an elementary would look like. Obviously, we'll figure out what it looks like once we bring our architects on board. We have not hired a construction engineer or an architect yet. We want to do that after we hopefully, if it does pass, we would have that as RFPs right afterwards, and we'd hire them in the first month to start working on it. We've hired a construction engineer to give us the cost factor, so we know we're right at the right cost. So that'd be what an elementary may look like. The date of opening for that elementary would be 2016. The bottom picture is the picture of the high school turned into a middle school. that front white arc that you see when you go into the high school, that'd be taken out. That little glass front off to the left is the office, so you'd have to walk through there to get into the building during the school day. So this is the elementary site. As you take a look at the bottom left, that's Target. Highway 5 is kind of curving up there to the top left, and then Quick Trips up there. This is Airport Road. As you take a look at it, kind of comes through here, and there's a development right here, so there's land right across there. When you're on Highway 5, there's a pump station right there. So that's the property that the elementary would be at. This gives you another look at it. If I can get there. As you look at this one, 92 gets extended in the future plans of the county. And when it does, it'll come right past that site, and it'll be about a quarter mile. The one thing that happened with when the school board was looking for property, the last time they had some up here just south of St. Bonnie, that owner, well, at the time when they were looking at that one, it was the bank that owned it. Now somebody else owns it. That relationship, they called, they met, they talked, they had a lot of follow-up calls and letters that the owner would never respond with a number and just didn't want to interact with it. So it just became not available. So they started going down 92 saying, where could we find property? And pretty soon it was Crown College and it was development. And before they got to anywhere, that was the first site that was pretty much available. So this takes care of the overcrowding of our elementary, but it also takes care of the development areas, because we know Minnetrista is developing, we know the west side of Victoria is developing, and we know all around Target's developing. So this kind of puts it right in the heart of that. So the site was a good site. The other thing was the property cost. The last time the property was, the two different times they went out last two times, they're at 50 and 53,000 an acre. This one's at 20,000 an acre. So the price came in a lot better. So that takes care of our K-5 overpopulated. Our youth program, I talked about that. This is a floor plan of what the high school would look like as a middle school, plus the early enrichment center. The early enrichment center is the upper left in the green. That gives them their own drop-off site off to the left. It gives them their own playground just off above there. It's in the industrial tech area of the building, and that gives high ceilings so they can put an indoor playground and maybe indoor little gym for the little tykes that are in there. We have those 4 different programs that are part of that early enrichment center. The middle school itself, there won't be a lot of need for changing things because the classrooms are in good shape at the high school. There'll be the new entryway right there next to the auditorium. And then, as you see the colors, in middle school you want to try to keep your grade levels together. And we call those houses in ISD 110. So the 6th grade house would be the light blue, the 7th grade house would be the green, and the 8th grade would be the upper level, which would be the yellow or orange down there. So that keeps them together. We do have some encore classes in the light purple. That would take care of your wood shop and your art and facts and some of your STEM classes, so we'll be able to take care of that. The current middle school, Clearwater's concert area, if you've ever been in there, it's that cafetorium, and it's really hard to go in there and see a concert. This would have a 400-seat auditorium in our current high schools. That'll help them. The other thing that we'll do is we'll move the edible classroom, which has been a really big plus for our school district. We'll move it to that site because the middle school students work on that, the gardens, and so that's garden site place there. So that takes care of the 6 to 8 population. Well, then we have the 9 through 12, or the high school population. This would be what Clearwater would look like as a high school. Right as you pull into the front area where it normally swings into the Clearwater drop-off area, that office would be pushed out. That's the glassed-in area there. Again, you'd have a secured entryway. Off to the left would be an auditorium that we put in. As we know, our fine arts programs is something that thrives, so you need that seating. The back side is the bottom picture on the left. That's where the students would do all their parking. which would allow them to get in out during the day. It's also the event center, or the event parking, I should say, for activities. This probably gives a better drawing of that. The gray is the existing building, and Safari Island would stay the same. But here's that access off of Highway 5. Here's the roundabout in current high school right now. So it's down the road from Highway 5, and they'll bring you right in to these new parking areas. So you'll have new parking, which will allow high schoolers to come right in, have a spot, or if you're coming for an event at night, you'll have parking on the back side. There's a new gym, here's the auditorium, so that will give you space. If you're having practices or activities on these fields in the back, that's your soccer, lacrosse, football fields, designed to go either way in case you wear out the spots for the goalie area, and then softball and baseball fields. And off to the right, you see those are tennis courts, 12 tennis courts. There's very few tennis courts in this area, so that could help us. The pond is there because we stay with the green theme. We'll irrigate all of our green space with runoff water and try to keep the pond there. So that's how the campus would look. The floor plan itself would look like this. You can see the auditorium would be down in this area. We have a new administrative office with that main entryway. These gray areas are current classrooms. This blue and yellow is new classrooms. So you almost double your classrooms that you have upstairs and downstairs. That'll allow for a lot more classroom space for our high school students. It'll give them to upgrade your kind of science and engineering type classrooms too. So it'll give you a lot more opportunities to enhance your classrooms. And then the gymnasium's the same size we have the current high school, competition gym, wrestling room off the side. The cafetorium will get flattened out and they'll put a weight room and a gymnastic area there. The kitchen and the cafeteria will be pushed out to allow for enough space for that many students. Currently, Clearwater can hold almost 1,100 students. I think it's 1065 or something like that. This building, when we're done, the capacity will be 1,600 students, so 400 per grade. We're running about 280 to 300 a grade right now. We have a lot, I'd say over half are over 300 right now. So we're right at that break point now. So this is we're projecting that this will keep us for 10 years if growth stays about the same. This is how the cost breaks down. To turn the middle school into high school, add the gym, and auditorium, and all that, that's $34 million. To make the small additions that you need, renovations of the current high school into a middle school, that's $2 million. The additional elementary is a $20 million cost. The changes to the youth program, the little program, the early enrichment program, that's about $200,000. Deferred maintenance, that takes care of that HVAC system we talked about in Southview and Bayview. Also takes care of a roof on Clearwater. And then there's some money in there for if bids go a little higher than we thought they would. The district-wide security system for all those entrances is $1.2 million. Athletic fields is $7.2 million, and one of those fields will be turf, and right now it's probably targeted to be the Bayview field because that gets the most traffic. And if the bids come in right, they may look at 2. Refinancing the existing building, that's the district office. Right now it's lease levy tax, and to buy it, it's going to be a lot less tax on our property owners than it would be to keep lease levying it. And then the land acquisition, I talked about the property on the elementary site was 20,000 acre. The little triangle that allows to get that access off of Highway 5, that one's at 39,000 an acre. And then the 60 acres for the fields on the backside, that one's at 32,000 an acre. So they're all under the prices that we were looking at before. So you add it all up together and it's 75 million. And I think the interesting part for it, and I, coming on new, I find this out, how this worked, but I actually was sitting in the meeting that it all came together. And it was, what do we need for the overcrowding was the first, that was what they've been working on for 2 years. And the plan came together, well, we need an early enrichment center, we need a new elementary, we need to switch high school, middle school around and all that. And so they added up, had a construction engineer come in, add it all up, It was anywhere between 72 and 76 million, depending on if the elementary's 600 students or 800 students, depends on if the auditorium's 800 or 1,000 seats. And so the board said, well, let's stay with those figures between 72 and 76. Now, how can we make this cost tax neutral? And so they gave it to a tax auditor to look at all of our existing properties in our school district. And they came back and said, if you went out for a 24-year bond and refinanced your existing debt, you would have $75 million at tax neutral. So that's how it wasn't that the 75 came first and then they went shopping. They went and built it first, and then they came back and said, let's make this tax neutral. This is how it becomes tax neutral. You can see that the existing debt is in the purple. The red is the new debt for the new construction. Obviously we have some coming off, but it stays neutral across the top all the way. And that's as if we keep the current property that we have. We all know that all these communities, Minnetrista is growing, Waconia is growing, Victoria is growing, all those are going to be adding new properties. So those red bars we see in 24 years, not going up, but going down. So, but that's how that projects out. And then our auditor even looked at every different category, whether it's residential, commercial, agricultural non-homestead, and agricultural non-homestead, at 75 million for 24 years. The increase to your tax would be zero. That column on the far right is zero. Now, the problem that we have when we go to put this on a ballot is we know that we're putting 75 million on our taxpayers, so that is an increase to your taxes. It's just over the long term. So the ballot will have that question, and it'll be on the bottom. I was looking at your sample ballots out here, and it looks like District 3, I think, Precinct 3 has it anyway. So this question will be on there, and on the bottom it says, by voting yes on this ballot question, you are voting for a property tax increase. That is true in the long range. And over 24 years, that's an increase to the property owners. But on the yearly taxes, it will stay neutral, and there will be no increase. And we've been asking people to really spread that message so that when people get in their first time, they don't go, what? That superintendent told us. No. So it is tax neutral on your yearly taxes, but not on the long range. What's it do for us? It's an educational benefit. It reduces our overcrowding, provides for a safer environment, provides for a safe and future growth of our programs. We know they're going to grow. We want to keep plenty of space for them. And every one of these areas will have space for the next 10 years. The youth programs and activities, more fields and courts will offer future youth involvement. Additional larger auditorium we have a great fine arts program. They'll have that ability to get more involved there. And the facility upgrades will enhance our current programs and even future programs. And then for the community, there we go. We won't run too far. Community auditorium. When you put an 800 to 1,000 seat auditorium in, you can get some concerts in there on the weekends that normally wouldn't probably come out to our community with 400 seats. If they know they can sell anywhere from 800,000 seats, you can probably get some pretty good concerts to come out. So we're looking forward to that. City's already been talking to us if that happens. That would be fun to have. So that would be a good thing. Recreational, you have all the different outdoor facilities that we didn't have before. Educational facilities will be upgraded, so if people want to come in here and have night classes and that kind of thing, we have that. We do know that great schools are good for the local economy and for property values, and it does invest in our futures for future generations. Strong schools give you a strong community. Mm-hmm. As I said before, this is why we came to this district, is because we know that it's a great district. We want to provide the best for the best students, staff, parents, community, and all of 110. Here's some of the pictures again of what we had. Get that, the elementary, and the middle school front. That's the back side of the middle school turn into high school, so that'd be the new high school. Student entry and parking. And this would be front side. So it's a big project. It's a project that it's time. We're overcrowded. We're over capacity right now. It allows for great schools, allowing a great community. It's cost neutral, so our tax neutral solution for your yearly taxes, benefits all ages. I've done this presentation quite a few times. I keep hearing a lot of people saying it just makes sense, so I threw that at the end. It just makes sense. Now's the time. Questions that you might have?
Any questions, Council?
No.
No?
Any questions for Rob?
Well done, Patrick. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any
Thank you.
things that you've been hearing? Can I ask you a question?
Well, I actually was out this weekend and I had a few questions about it and I kept asking, is it tax neutral? I'm like, I don't know. I'll know
Right.
on Monday.
And I think our first mailer should have got to all the voters here in the last week, so hopefully everybody received one of those.
No, I think you have a much better shot this time. I think it's laid out much better than the last referendum. That's my
I wasn't hearing a lot, but I hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you have a good shot.
yeah, well, it's at that point where it is overcrowded, so that next stage would not be fun if we had to do something other than this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure coming here. And if you want to know how to vote, I can't tell you, but this guy back here is on the committee that can tell you. So I don't want to say anything, why, grab my.
The one question I did have, can we get a breakdown of the cost? So if anybody asks, where the different.
Yeah, it's on our website, but we
Is it?
can.
Oh, okay, as long as it's on the
yeah,
website.
It's up on the website.
Okay.
That 75 million. how that
Yeah.
Yep.
comes out. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
My name is John Skansky. I'm a resident and parent in Waconia, and I encourage you all and the residents in Minnetrista of the district to vote yes. I just think it's a creative use of existing space, responsible use of taxpayers' money, and it provides an amenity that's going to continue to make our community, all of our communities, a great place to live and raise our families in. So I encourage you all to vote yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we didn't have anybody sign up for persons to be heard. So our next special presentation is from Brian Grimm, and he is going to present the third quarter financial update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I'll keep this brief. I think as you saw in the memo, everything is pretty much tracking as where we should be for third quarter through the first 9 months of the year here. This is pages 4 through 12 of your packet. I'll mainly touch on the memo. Our revenues were about at 61% of our budget amounts for the general fund, which I think the main thing to point out there is our building permit activity is trending above where we projected. We're at, I think about 81 building permits or new home starts, you know, it's between the townhomes and standard single family. So we are doing better. I think our economy is improving, and I think our housing numbers and are bearing that out or in that subset. So that's very exciting, I guess, for that we are knowing that we've budgeted for some of that growth for infrastructure or budgeting for, across the board. So otherwise, yeah, our first tax settlement, we had good collections on. I think I reported that last time. So I think very few delinquencies, very few foreclosure type situations within the city per our assessor, Kevin Wynn, some of his reports at the county. So revenue side, we're doing well. So expenditure side, we are at about 79% year to date in the general fund. A couple items though that I wanted to note is, and I think we've talked about this last time, the lowering wall project is actually just coming out of our fund balance, so that inflates that number a little bit. We had money set aside for that, and we've spent about $85,000 to date. I think we're almost done with that, or a final payment or two to come yet. We are over budget in our government buildings department, but that is offset by insurance proceeds, so that's nothing to worry about there. And then lastly, our building inspection, obviously we have more revenue on on that side, so we're going to be over budget on the expenditure side. We have had some transition in that area too, with switching vendors due to the, the city of Victoria's request to step back there. So we had a little bit of overlap for a bit and some, cleanup or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, otherwise, I think we're doing well. Some items we've paid the full year, amount already, our fire contract, so that's where the 79% is. Like I said, nothing to worry about. Lastly, our cash accounts, I think pretty much all our funds have surpluses except the timing difference in our payment to Mound on their, the fire improvement debt fund there. We do have a couple funds that I did note in the memo that we have outlays to make where we've gotten money in from the developer on the Rudolph County Road 150, 119 water main project. So that will go down a little bit from what's reported, as well as we do have our refinancing. We did, we'll be talking another refinancing or refunding in a second here, but we did early in the year. We have some money sitting waiting to be paid by December 1st in our water fund. So you can see both of those funds. I think we're in the $1 to $2 million range, but they'll come down a little bit with some of those payments. So otherwise, the reports, the revenue report was page 6, expenditure was 7 through 11, and the cash report was page 12. If there's any questions, but otherwise I think we should be set up to come in at or above projections for 2014 here when we come back and talk about this at year end. So,
any questions?
Looks good.
No?
Like a motion to accept it?
Sure. Yeah, I guess we can get a motion to accept the report.
Okay.
I'll motion to accept the report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, next we move on to our consent agenda, and just a reminder that we added letter O, 5:30 on the 13th. We are going to meet for a special session on the water plant. So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the noted changes.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay, our next item is our public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing to consider a temporary one-day liquor license for the West Tonka Rotary for Tonka Brewfest. Does anybody want to speak to the one-day liquor license? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Can I take, at this point we vote, right?
I believe so. I know. Terry, did you have just a quick update?
The only thing of note is normally there is a fee for a liquor license, but because we're in partnership, staff has requested that, or recommended that the city council waive that fee. And so, just as there's clarity in the motion.
Okay. Right, I'll make a motion to approve the temporary one-day liquor license for West Tonka Rotary for Tonka Brewfest and waive the permit fee again this year.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Go to the business items. And this is Todd Hagan. He's going to do the happy dance.
I used to be able to do that, but I'm getting kind of old. Hey, it's a great day to sell bonds, for Minnetrista and, a lot of communities in the area. So October 6th here, we've got the sale day report in front of the council. Again, I'm Todd Hagan from Ellers and Associates. We put this out for bid pursuant to a pre-sale report and public hearing on the capital improvement plan on September 2nd, and that gave us the authority to go forward and package this up for underwriters and banks in the area, outstate, in-state, to bid up until about 10 o'clock in the morning this morning. So if you look at the first page in from the cover on the summary report, kind of the cut to the chase of all the money you're saving here, I'll just start out that we are advance refunding the EDA's public project lease revenue bond series 2009A, and that for an interest savings cost. So actually, because we don't need a reserve on this particular bond anymore, we took a year off as well. So we've got 16 years of payments instead of 17 remaining on this. So that's good news as well. And again, it's for the public safety and the public works facilities. Last week, We did get on a rating call again, and it was last Monday, with Brian and the folks at Standard & Poor's, and they maintained your AA+ with stable outlook rating, and we just got you rated a couple months ago anyway, so it was a pretty quick call, but just an update to see if there are any changes, and you continue to have very strong financial condition, as you all know, so everything's great there. What happened this morning was we received 9 bids on the bond issue. That's a lot of bids. They came in from everywhere, I think. Your best bidder was Wells Fargo Bank, not locally here, but out of Charlotte, North Carolina. If you go to the the second page in from the cover, which is the third page, you can see how these bids came in. So Wells Fargo out of Charlotte, North Carolina, came in at 2.35% on these remaining 16 years of the bond issue. Janney Montgomery Scott, don't see them very often, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, came in at 2.36% true interest cost. Piper Jaffray, we've heard of those folks before, out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, at 2.38%, and Baird out of Milwaukee, they've got a presence in Minneapolis as well, and they're at 2.41%. BMO Capital Markets out of Chicago, Illinois, 2.44%. And Raymond James out of Memphis, Tennessee at 2.46%. Northland Securities locally here out of Minneapolis, 2.47%. And SunTrust out of Atlanta, Georgia, 2.53%. And last but not least, Stifel Nicholas out of Memphis, Tennessee at 2.54%. So those are great bids. As a matter of fact, if you go back to that summary page, the difference between the low bid and the high bid, our projections were sort of at the high bid at 2.54. You got 20 basis points off of that today, so you saved about a little over $95,000 by publicly bidding this thing, and that's pretty neat to see. The winning bidder, Wells Fargo, actually gave us more money than we needed. That's just because rates are so low right now that they actually increased the interest rate for their customers. They don't ask for a fee from you folks, really, and they give you more money than you need. So what we do, and because you don't need any more money than you need, it's a refinancing, we took $300,000 off of this bond issue. So it's not $4,895,000 anymore, it's $4,595,000, and that effectively burns the yield down back to where it's supposed to be. You know, if you look at that, third page there, the second page from the cover, it's the yield, the effective yield is actually 0.25% down to 2.8, which gets you to that 2.3% interest rate. And that was really the difference. The net proceeds went down. We didn't need as many, to buy as many securities, to tuck away for a couple years till we can call the bonds on February 1, 2017. Again, discount allowance, they effectively didn't take a fee, but they gave us what we call a premium. And the cost of issuance went down about $2,400. So everything went down, as well as then the interest rate went down almost 20 basis points at 1.946%. So your total savings on this thing, future value, apples to apples, comparing the old one to the new one, is a little over $500,000. So $511,192 is the total savings over the 16 years, which equates to about $30,000 to $35,000 a year, which Brian was talking about would helps the budget and all that good stuff. So that's nice to see. The savings percentage, present value present value of refunded principal is over 9%. State law considers 3% doable. Our company says 4 to 6 is pretty good. You're over 9% present value savings, so that's great. The BBI trend, the bond buyer index trend, it's going down, so you're kind of striking at this as rates are going down as well. So they went down about 10 basis points between September, within a month here. So that's wonderful news. Again, so we've got final numbers here. The bond is going to close October 29th. Virtually all this money goes into escrow at the U.S. Bank. To kind of we're defeasing. The old bonds are getting paid through escrow, and then they go away in a couple of years, and these bonds go on. So you actually will save immediately on this bond issue, so that's nice to see. Talked about the bid tabulation. The updated schedules are in there, so it's all final numbers. You know, there's nothing that's going to move anymore. Rating reports in there, graph. You guys have a copy of the bond resolution from Kennedy and Graven to consider, I guess, tonight if you like this or not. Why you wouldn't, but you know, you might not like it. Brian?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, Todd, just for clarification, or for my understanding, so for the public too, seeing this as an advance refunding, both issues will technically, like when we come to our year-end audit, will be out there until the call date in 2017, and then it's just a matter of then that one will officially drop off, correct?
Yeah, it's really, since it's in escrow right now, it's been verified by the CPA's escrow verification has been performed already. The bond proceeds that are used for the escrow are invested in state and local government series securities, you know, the best you can get. It's on autopilot basically. And although there's 2 bond issues out there, the defeasance really, this is gone as far as, you know, we're concerned.
So
sure, but
it's not more almost for future in case anyone ever asks why is this one still showing up or something, if they look at an audit report or something. It's just more of a bookkeeping thing. The money's out there just
in the audit. Yep, it's going to, you know, probably be there. I'm not too familiar with audits, but you know, as far as the official statement, another bond issue too, you know, that's gonna, it's not going to really show up as being outstanding like that anymore. So yeah. Okay. And it won't count, you know, as far as another rating too. They're not going to see this as we're not doubling up on anything. It's gone as far as Standard & Poor's is concerned, as far as, you know, it counting as far as outstanding debt. So, yep, wonderful, great. I'm happy. I'm happy with the results on this bond issue. So, good job. Yeah.
This is actually huge. I mean, I think it's important that we let the taxpayers and residents in Minnetrista know that with what we're doing here, that's huge. Mm-hmm. 30 to 35,000 a year savings by the refinance. I think that's big news. That's huge. Yeah. So thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. We're happy to work for you folks and appreciate the business as usual. So.
I think, one last comment probably. I think this is where the AA plus really comes into play, as we were able to get 9 banks to propose. So by having a healthy financial situation with the city and healthy fund balances and stuff, it really this is a high profile, you know, example of where it really pays off. So
definitely.
Yeah, if you were in the high A categories, you'd probably see you know, maybe 5 bids or something too. That would be a good day for a city rated in the A category. 6 would be great. You know, we normally see 4 on something like this, so that is a direct reflection. You know, the more activity you get, the more competition. You know, competition usually translates into lower, you know, interest rates. So it's neat to see. Worked out great.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Terrific. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much.
So yeah, I think the action item then is just the
resolution
that's in the packet there on it. What's it, page 90 or 95 is where it's recommended city council action is awarding the sale of the general obligation CIP bonds 2014B in the amount, I guess now, of $4,595,000, and then all the rest of the technical wording there.
So moved.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's 5-0. Good job, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Woodland Cove Development Project. Who's leading that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. There are 3 parts, 3 actions that we're looking for from City Council this evening. The first being approve the execution of the partial assignment agreement between Woodland Cove LLC and Mattamy Partnership of Minneapolis. As the council may recall, the city did enter into a master development agreement with Woodland Cove LLC that established the overall framework of the development. It also authorizes Woodland Cove to assign its rights and obligations under that master development agreement with city approval. So that is what, as we did with phase 1 with a partial assignment agreement, that is what we're looking for here this evening. There is one change of note, though, that should be discussed, and that being this partial assignment will delay the reconstruction of Lotus Drive, and specifically what I'm talking about is not the part within the Woodland Cove site, but in the Master Development Agreement, we also asked the developer to reconstruct from the property all the way to County Road 44. What they're asking for is a delay in that until which time Mattamy would close on the next phase of the project. From a city standpoint, we think for a couple of reasons that does potentially make some sense. There are, as we talked about earlier this evening with the future of a water treatment plant, there is a need for a new water main in the Lotus Drive right-of-way, and we don't have a specific timeline for that yet. The other thing that project that is looming is the Metropolitan Council is looking at doing a new interceptor line, which would also utilize the Lotus Drive right-of-way. That is scheduled for potentially 2015, but most likely a 2016 project. So we have two future projects that are going to be in the Lotus Drive right-of-way in this area. So it wouldn't make sense to construct a new road now that would potentially have to be tore up in a year or two. The other thing would be the delay would allow for them to get their infrastructure in for phase 2, and then also it just delays future wear and tear on the road, if you will, with whether construction traffic would go that way. I know a lot of their construction traffic would come from the other side now, but another reason that really would not be a harm in allowing this delay. So when they do close on the phase 3, we would then revisit this discussion once again and look to have that alignment, that Lotus Drive portion all the way to County 4 reconstructed. So that is one significant change, that if you do approve this partial assignment, that would actually amend our master development agreement to allow for this delay in Lotus Drive. So that really is the only thing of note. The rest of the agreement is similar to the one we approved for the first phase. So we'll be looking for council action on that item this evening.
Council? Well, I have a comment about it. I think that it'll also discourage construction traffic. And so I think the neighbors in Trillium Bay will appreciate not doing it right now.
Correct.
So.
It also, I think, just allows more time for access to Kings Point Road as they put more infrastructure in. When this project does come into play, South Bay Drive and Lotus Drive residents will have other options to get out of the development, so it'll be much more convenient.
Okay. No further questions?
No.
I'm looking for a motion.
Is this the one on 132? Staff recommends adoption of a resolution authorizing mayor and city clerk to execute consent attached to the partial assignment agreement on behalf of the city.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
The next item, Madam Mayor, members of council, would be the actual final plat application. This is Mattamy's second phase. Technically, it would be the third phase of the development because there was a lake addition that Carlson did here recently. What we're looking at is 94 new residential lots with one private park that will be owned and maintained by the Master Homeowners Association. The lots in this phase are similar to that in phase 1. Council may recall we a few months ago did approve a preliminary grading agreement so that they could get started on the grading work. This is the follow-up to that, the actual final plat portion of it. Reviewing this to the master development agreement, it is consistent with the overall framework. They are consistent with the unit number. We're actually still at a +2 units as where we're tracking along with the phases, so we're consistent in that regard. And again, it is consistent with the preliminary plat and the master development agreement. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the final plat for Woodland Cove second edition for 94 new residential lots.
Were there conditions with that?
Correct. There would be conditions as outlined in the resolution. That's correct.
I'll motion to approve the final plat for Woodland Cove Second Edition with the conditions.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
And the final item in this regard, Madam Mayor and Council, would be, as we do with any of our subdivisions, we enter into a subdivision agreement or a development agreement, which outlines the obligations of the developer for the infrastructure that is required for the development. Also outlines the letter of credit that's required to be submitted to the city to ensure that those improvements will be put in place. So as part of your packet this evening, we have a proposed development agreement. Staff is recommending approval of that agreement and authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, and who is doing the quotes and bids? Is this you, Paul?
Correct.
For South Bay Drive, sanitary sewer washout?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. In your packet is a memorandum that identifies a project we've been working with staff and with FEMA to get some reimbursement. This is one that was an erosion issue due to the heavy rainfalls received in June. Just to remind you of the project, it was a berm that contained a sanitary sewer system in the Three Rivers Park District area just east of South Bay Drive, and that was blown out in one of the rain events. And we've been temporarily bypass pumping the sanitary sewer that goes through there, and this project is to restore that berm and the sanitary sewer back. Also provides some additional armoring of the upstream and downstream banks to try to reduce that erosion, and includes a geogrid in the surface, on the top surface of the berm, to help reduce erosion as well in case there is another overflow again in the future. We did receive, we actually sent this out to, I believe there were 6 contractors. We received 1 quote back. I should mention we did receive a second quote. We didn't find out about that until today. They sent it to the wrong location. It was to a mailbox that was not retrievable, so we can't consider that quote, which is unfortunate. The quote that we did receive is from Minger Construction Company, and they actually provided a quote of $108,749, but if we extend the deadline to November 28th, they would take $5,000 off of that and then not charge the city for the bypass pumping materials and rental, which they're the ones that helped us set that up initially. And we would include that in the contract. One bright spot, this is a little higher than the engineer's estimate. This is specialty work. Contracting and estimating construction right now is quite difficult. Contract quote did come in a little higher than we anticipated. But the reduction that they are offering, I think, is a good value, and also FEMA will reimburse the majority of this as part of our application for financial assistance. So,
Yeah, I was disappointed at the higher amount, but we don't really have a choice.
We
at
don't.
this
We are
point.
running out of time.
Yeah.
If in extending the date to November 28th, if we need to, this contractor would also supply insulation to the force main so that it doesn't freeze, and they do that their own as part of this
And
project.
he's the same contractor who did out on Enchanted?
Yes, the same
Yeah.
contractor.
Yeah. What do you think, Council?
What was the initial estimate that you?
93.
91.
91.
It was-
91 is your thought, right? Okay, I see it, okay. So we're 15,000 over, roughly.
With the incentives, it brings it down lower than that.
It's about 10 more.
We also should point out too, when we first considered, under normal circumstances, if we were to bid this during normal construction season, which the season has not been, this would have come in somewhere between, in our opinion, 60 to 65,000. With the way we have to bid it and get this constructed here at the end of this year, cost could have gone anywhere. The way we put this out after FEMA reviewed this, to make sure they could see it before we did any work, cost did come in a little higher than anticipated, but I think on the bright spot, the majority of this is going to be reimbursable. including the city staff time and the time we've had with the bypass pumping and those costs as well.
Okay, what's your pleasure, Council?
I'd make a motion, we accept the bid and award to the contractor of Reconstruction Incorporated for an amount of $103,749.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just a clarification, if you would, that would also, with that bid, would extend the bid date to November 28th, so you're aware of that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's 5-0. Next is approving claims. Any questions on the claims?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, council reports. There will be a League of Women Voters debate on October 16th at 7 o'clock in our city chambers. And Mike, do you have more information on it?
I did meet with the representative from the League of Women Voters, met with her last week, and they did all the work. I mean, they've contacted the candidates. The site here and location here is fine. We've already arranged with Isaac to do the recording of the event, and so I think we're good to go for that 7 o'clock start time on the 16th. So.
Great. And then I have Northwest League this week, and that's all my reports.
I don't have a report. I do have a a request, though, by a resident out on Palmer Point. If you come into Palmer Point, there's one house on that main, on Marywood, and he asked if we could maybe, if our police department could watch a little bit. He said a lot of people come off 7 at a pretty high rate of speed, and he was a little concerned with his kids being right on the road there. So he just asked me to pass it on to see if we could kind of maybe watch a little bit and maybe get people to kind of back her down a little bit.
Okay, I'll
So,
put in an extra patrol request for that area.
I would appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too, so thanks.
I have nothing.
Bob?
I just have 2 comments. One, last Monday night, the WCC West Stockton Community Commerce had a special meeting that was held at Alan Alma's, and very, very well done. We had 5 of the surrounding cities with the mayors giving a little presentation about what's going on in the city. And by far did the best job of everybody out there, so it was very well done. Thank you, Anna, very well done. And then in addition to that, the WCC also did a memorial bench for John's Variety, which went to his John Royer's son, Johnny, and his son Shane and Bree, granddaughters. So that was very fun. It was exciting. Very well done. And just for your information, the members of WCC again are having a get-together this Thursday, October 9th, from 11:30 to 1, and this will be held at the American Legion. So just FYI. That's it.
Okay. Tyler?
I was just wondering if we could get an update on MinSpec. Are they keeping up? There was the email from Scott.
Yeah, we haven't heard that they've not been keeping up, so I assume they are.
Well, we've got, I think we're feeling the effects of even before Scott's email, just because the level of activity. I mean, we're at 12 to 15 day turnaround for a permit review. As far as I know from inspections, haven't heard as much, but I think the big thing is permit turnaround has been ongoing.
Okay, and I had a question that came up this weekend. Have we heard what the county's planning on doing on County Road 44 as far as maybe doing a boulder retaining wall and putting a guardrail in?
I don't have any information on that yet. I know Gary has talked to them. I can check in with him and maybe get a council update to you.
And the other spot is where that accident was on County Road 26, where the motorcyclist died.
Well, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'll comment first on County Road 44. I did have a number of conversations with several of the county public works people there, and they're kind of in the same position we are with the storm damage, and they're working through that FEMA process. So they basically indicated that there was not a guardrail there in the past, and we said that the situation has changed now that due to the erosion. And so they're going to look at that very closely, but that's going to go through the same FEMA process that we're going through. So all I can tell you at this point is they have taken our information, and they'll certainly do what they can to request that, but it'll likely be a slow process.
Okay.
And then for the motorcycle crash, just Paul wasn't here. We had Sergeant Squires participate in the Roads Committee meeting that was held 1.5 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. And that came up at the, that was asked by one of the Roads Committee members to discuss it. So we had a short discussion on that. I think one of the things we're going to do is just going to kind of look at the situation a little bit, work with the, I think it's Hennepin County that's doing the accident reconstruction and stuff that goes with it. I think that's going to still take a number of months to go from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually a fairly long process.
Yes, it's the State Patrol that's doing that reconstruction process, but that is a very slow process. But in the end, it will be a very, very detailed report.
And one of the things we may do is look at, if we can, find out some history of accidents in that area.
Yeah.
Documented, not kind of what people remember, but, you know.
Yeah, that's what, of course, that's what I'm hearing, is what people remember.
Right.
They say there have been 3 fatalities there.
Right, and I've heard that too, and I'm not sure if that's true or not. It may be, it may not. We'll find out. But one of the things that we committed, at least to the Roads Committee, and we just haven't been able to get back to them because it just came up in the last meeting, was to see if there are things we could do with, whether it's the state or county or whatever. Could be a flashing light, it could be, you know, whatever. I mean, we'll find out what our options are possible. Okay. So that's one of the things that we're going to do, but I think what we're going to first do is wait until we get the report back and see what they tell us first. Mm-hmm. That accident, yeah.
All right, with staff reports, Mike?
The only thing that I'll touch on that you did not mention, Mayor, you did mention about the League of Women Voters candidate debate. I did put in the informational packet the information that we received, the letter we received back from the city of turn us down on our offer to lease them space starting in 2015 in the Boneyard. They've decided to do something temporarily until they can find their own place, a mound-only Boneyard. So that's where that's at. The offer will still stand. I mean, if they say in the future they'd like to rent space, we'll certainly consider it. So, but they did turn us down on that. So.
Okay. Any other?
I don't think so.
No other staff reports? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. This meeting is adjourned.
8 o'clock.
You do win.
Uh-huh.
You do win.
It's 1 p.m.
I win.
It's not 8 hours.
8 o'clock, I win.
Who won? There's the things to say.